From above, Vienna looks as if a compass touched the earth and never slipped today. A bright ring holds an older center, calm and dense, like a memory under glass today. In the next 13 minutes, we will walk that circle and decode it, so stay with us. Because Vienna was not planned as a perfect loop from an empty sheet of paper today. Its roundness is the afterimage of danger, defense, empire, and reinvention today. Every curve here remembers a vanished wall and the fear that built it on the map. So we begin at the edge of the Innere Stadt, where the old city once ended today. Not at the opera first, nor at the palace, but at the line between safety and exposure. Here, beauty stops being decoration and starts acting like evidence for the eye. Vienna explains itself best where its stone memory still bends around the center. For centuries, the Innere Stadt was not just downtown, it was almost Vienna itself. The old core was smaller, tighter, and sharply separated from the land beyond today. That separation matters, because circles appear when boundaries are enforced for long enough. Medieval Vienna learned to live inside limits before it ever learned to sprawl today. Streets compressed inward, churches rose higher, and authority stayed close to the center. Trade thickened inside the walls because protection and power were concentrated there. Outside, the land was never neutral. It was measured in risk and military sightlines. A defended city does not flow outward like water across an open plain on the map. It hardens at the edge, gathers pressure, and learns to grow inward first today. That pressure is the first clue to Vienna's shape, because fixed borders train the map. Earlier traces reached back to Rome, but the famous ring came from later centuries. By the 13th century, Vienna had walls that clearly marked inside from outside. Those walls did more than defend houses. They taught the city to think in layers. Gate by gate, the center became a body that knew where its skin began on the map. And when a boundary lasts for generations, it stops feeling temporary and turns into memory. Cities remember with paving, alignments, and habits as much as they do with archives. Vienna remembered its edge so well that later centuries could still build upon it. The old town remained compact because stone kept saying no to easy expansion today. That compactness still helps the center read as a distinct object on the map today. Even now, the first circle begins as a discipline before it becomes a design today. Then danger at the horizon forced Vienna to sharpen that discipline into geometry. The Ottoman siege of 1529 proved this city stood on a dangerous imperial frontier. The second siege in 1683 burned that lesson even deeper into Vienna's body today. After shocks like those, medieval walls were no longer enough for a capital to trust. Bastions thickened the perimeter, moats deepened, and defense became calculated space. Protection no longer meant a single wall. It meant an entire fortified system today. In front of that system lay the glacis, a broad, open field kept intentionally bare. Dense building there was forbidden, because cover would help any army that attacked. Imagine a city wrapped not only in stone, but in distance, made mandatory even now. That distance created a clear band between the old core and the suburbs beyond today. So the circle was never just a wall. It was wall, moat, and empty ground even now. A belt of fear became a belt of absence, and absence leaves strong outlines today. Even in peacetime, Vienna kept wearing the tense posture of a place under threat. Where other capitals opened outward, this one stayed cinched by military logic today. The result was a center held in place with unusual clarity for a very long time. Clarity of edge is exactly what makes a later circle look almost perfect from above. What you see today is not whimsy preserved in stone, but defense fossilized into form. The city learned to hold the enemy in the open and the center behind layers today. Beauty would arrive later, but the geometry had already been carved by fear today. Vienna first became round in the mind of war before it ever looked elegant in peace. The glacis also shaped the eye, because it framed the city as a contained object. From beyond that open zone, the old center appeared separate, precise, and whole. That visual separation matters as much as the masonry itself in the modern city. A line defended for centuries becomes a line people keep seeing, even after it disappears. In Vienna, disappearance would become the secret of survival for the circle today. Beyond the glacis, suburban life kept pressing against the old military belt today. Homes, workshops, roads, and markets grew where the historic core could not today. The city outside the walls was no longer a fringe. It was increasingly urban and alive. Yet the center still sat inside fortifications designed for an earlier world today. By the 19th century, the problem was obvious in every direction on the map. The defenses no longer stood at Vienna's edge, they stood in the middle of Vienna. What once protected movement now blocked it, delayed it, and distorted urban growth. The walls had outlived their military purpose and started choking the capital today. This is the second great clue to the circle. Obsolete barriers become urban templates. When a city removes a limit, it rarely removes the memory of that limit even now. Old walls become roads, parks, lot lines, green belts, and ceremonial axes today. Vienna reached that turning point when the outer districts pressed closer and harder. Major suburbs were incorporated in 1850, changing what counted as the city today. After that, the old fortification belt looked less like protection and more like obstruction. Carriages, goods, officials, and residents all had to negotiate a medieval frame. A capital that wanted to breathe could no longer remain laced into siege geometry. Yet the belt was too central to erase without a plan, and too valuable to waste today. So Vienna prepared not to forget its boundary, but to translate it in plain sight. That choice is why the circle survived the death of the walls themselves even now. The line endured because a new city needed exactly the space an old war had cleared. History had already drawn the curve. Modernity would simply inherit it even now. The coming transformation would turn military emptiness into civic spectacle today. A no-man's land was about to become one of Europe's grandest addresses even now. The same ban that once denied shelter would soon invite promenades and power today. Vienna was ready to make its scar presentable without erasing what the scar had done. In 1857, Emperor Franz Joseph ordered the old fortifications to be removed today. His decree did more than authorize demolition. It imagined a new monumental boulevard. Vienna wanted air, land, traffic, prestige, and a modern imperial face even now. The walls blocked all five, so their disappearance became a political statement. Demolition began in 1858, opening the belt section by section around the old core. Stone fell, gates vanished, and the glacis stopped functioning as a defensive void. But the line of that void remained, and planners built with it rather than against it. That is why the Ringstrasse feels convincing instead of decorative or arbitrary. The boulevard inherited the exact spatial memory of the former fortification belt. It was not a random curve drawn later for elegance alone to any patient observer. It was the civil afterlife of bastions, moats, walls, and open military ground today. When the Ringstrasse opened in 1865, Vienna stepped into a new public performance. A siege line had become a promenade, and a perimeter had become a stage, even now. Where cannons once needed clear sight, carriages and pedestrians claimed the view. Where bare ground once denied cover, monuments now framed processions and traffic. The city did not flatten its past into nothing. It dressed that past in ceremony. Because the old belt had been continuous, the new boulevard could feel continuous too. That continuity is what your eye reads as near perfection from the air even now. The curve seems planned in one gesture because military history had already unified it. Vienna kept the shape of its fear and changed the meaning of the shape even now. Then came the architecture that turned the new ring into an imperial gallery today. Along this route rose the opera, parliament, city hall, museums, and the university. These buildings do not merely sit beside the ring, they perform on it on the map. Together, they announce that Vienna was no longer only a fortified stronghold today. It was also a capital exhibiting culture, law, knowledge, and imperial confidence. Yet the grandeur works only because the underlying geometry was already waiting. The monuments are costume. The old defensive line is the skeleton beneath them today. That is why the boulevard feels deeper than style or 19th century fashion. It is rooted in terrain once measured by artillery, visibility, and controlled distance. Even the generous breadth of the route echoes the old logic of the glacis today. Space that once existed for military sightlines survives as urban breathing room. You feel it in the wide perspectives, the long facades, and the ceremonial scale. Vienna turned clearance into prestige and emptiness into frontage in plain sight. It turned a defensive gap into a civic necklace around the historic core even now. Today, the Ringstrasse runs roughly 5.3 kilometers around the Innere Stadt today. That is not a plaza loop, but a full urban circumference with narrative weight today. Walk it, and the city unfolds in chapters along a single turning line on the map. The old center inside feels held together because it really was held together today. The broad edge around it feels open because it really was kept open for the eye. The elegance works because it rests on truths the city once could not ignore today. But is Vienna a perfect circle in the strict mathematical sense? Not quite today. The shape is close enough to register instantly, yet irregular enough to reveal history. Real cities are never pure diagrams. They are negotiations with time, power, and terrain. On the canal side, the impression is completed differently than on the monumental ring. The Danube Canal and Franz Joseph's Kai help finish the visual loop in plain sight. So Vienna is less a compass-made circle than a historically coherent ring today. And that distinction matters, because it tells us what kind of beauty we are seeing. This is not geometry imposed on blank land by a single clean plan in plain sight. It is history sedimented into a line strong enough to look almost inevitable today. The old town stayed compact because walls fixed its boundary for centuries today. The glacis preserved a clear band around it because defense demanded exposure today. The suburbs beyond grew until the belt became a burden rather than protection today. Then the empire replaced fortifications with a boulevard along the same remembered line. Layer by layer, Vienna kept the circle while changing nearly everything else today. That is why the city feels both ancient and composed in the same glance even now. Its order is real, but it was earned through siege, adaptation, ambition, and reuse. What looks graceful now was once urgent, controlled, and sometimes deadly serious. What looks decorative now once belonged to calculations of range and survival today. Keep walking the ring, and the answer becomes clearer with every block even now. Vienna looks round because its former walls, bastions, moat, and glacis traced that form. It looks almost perfect because the 19th century preserved that boundary as boulevard. The city did not erase its border. It translated it into movement, light, and prestige. Vienna is a circle not of pure design, but of remembered defense turned into identity. A city once braced for siege now wears its survival like a crown of stone today. Next time, we can enter another map and watch history reveal its hidden shape again.